Aleykum! Welcome to Jenna Loves Allah, my silly little vlog where me as a revert, I try to bring all my experiences to life and share them with you and maybe connect with other people in the Muslim community because, quite frankly, I'm feeling kind of isolated where I am. So, I wanted to talk this week about just some happenings from visiting the masjid and how that made me feel and everything. I was delighted with the children running around because anybody who's been following me knows I'm desperately trying to have a baby, not very successfully. But this one little 2-year-old was enamored with my presence, or maybe I was just in proximity. His mother had actually sat down next to me, and he started kind of climbing all over my back, and she was all apologetic, and I'm like, don't worry about it, because the imam was actually speaking in Arabic for his sermon. I couldn't understand it anyway, so I was waiting for the English parts, and the child was a most welcome distraction. I just love the fact that the kids can play so readily on the carpeted floors of the mosque. So it was really, really refreshing. Not only was it nice to be around small children, but just to see them play like that. I remember going to church when I was a kid and always feeling pressured. I had to dress up in your Sunday best, which were always stiff and uncomfortable. Of course, going to the masjid, you always, as a woman, you have to be completely covered. So that's, not what most people would necessarily wear for their regular day-to-day clothes. They bring in extra stuff and put it over top to pray or whatever. But it was different. There was a formality to it. And the kids were all kind of like lined up. Don't make a sound. Don't budge. Don't move. My dad was real quick with a backhand if you made too much noise, and it kind of made the whole experience less than what it could have been. So I think that the fact that the kids are allowed to be children is a very wonderful thing because they look forward to having this space to kind of run around and tumble in and whatnot from a very, very young age. And really, they're not that loud. It's not bothering anybody, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. The sermon for the day actually was on how people who have moved to the Western world are going to have to be extra vigilant to maintain their culture because it gets eaten up. And as a revert, I can totally agree with this because I have seen the Western culture totally destroy what values that we used to have as Christians. They've been completely eroded. And that secularism has started to erode in some of the more populist migrations of Islam, which you take, for instance, Paris. They've already started with a completely homosexually run mosque or masjid or whatever you want to call it, and that's completely in defiance of the tenets. And that's where it starts. You get one rule that's a core rule that gets broken, and it spreads through everything. So it's something that he's very right in. You have to be very, very vigilant that the ways of the Western world don't get completely, with each generation, absorbing the old cultural ways. Now, I mean, everybody's not expected in the Western world to completely wear a niqab or a burqa or something like that, but there's a reason to wear at least the hijab, and it's a way of announcing to everyone that you are Muslim. It's a way for sisters to see one another in the streets and recognize one another. It's a way for you to remind yourself when you get dressed in the morning of your piety and your relationship with Allah. And these are all wonderful things. So it's a part of the culture that I think is a very good thing. And ironically, Christians used to cover their heads, particularly when they went to church. We had veils or hats or something that we would wear in church. But there was a time, and if you look at some of the more stricter Christian groups, they still wear bonnets where all their hair is tucked up nice and neat and covered. So this is not a strange behavior that contradicts the culture. It's just done differently. The hats or head coverings, as you will, are all different depending on which country you're from. And you see that even with the different styles of the hijab and the different choices, niqab, hijab, burqa, from different cultures and different nations. So it's really not that crazy of a thing to think that one culture is being circumnavigated by another, because what we've actually done with the media and everything else is our culture in the Western and Occident is being dictated to us as to what is socially acceptable. And that's where we run into problems. And what the Imam was trying to get at was, because this is every day in your face, it's in the schools, it's everywhere you go, it's on the television, this complete culture clash, that people will just want to adapt and want to live easier and start making choices to abandon the old ways. And once they start to do that, they start to fall away in other ways. So it's just, he was calling for people to be extremely vigilant. And it's, one of the reasons why, for me, I would rather be in a nation, a developing nation, that has Islam as the core, as the state religion, where, I have to adapt to that culture, and learn it and everything else. But it'll be easier for me to maintain everything the way I want to live, in worship of Allah and being obedient and everything else, than with all the distractions that are here. And I think that maybe what we might be seeing down the road is other people who have migrated to some of the Occident, their children or their grandchildren, if they're really serious about their religion, maybe choosing to do the same as I do, because they're looking at the same problems and saying, you know what, it's not worth it to stay here. Things have changed. This is not the same place that it was 20 years ago. And that was already making changes in the wrong direction. And then you go back 40 years, even more so. You go back 50, 60 years, even more so. It's been a gradual, terrible progress towards ungodly-like behaviors. And it's just an environment that a lot of us aren't comfortable with anymore. And there's so much potential to go back to what it was. But unfortunately, there's at least half of the nation that is totally unreceptive to that kind of behavior. They don't think that that is the way to go. They don't want the nation to go in that direction. My husband and I shared a ride the other day to a class at a masjid, and the brother who was driving us, he is very, very optimistic. He himself is a migrant to the U.S. and is very, very hopeful that Islam will continue to spread and grow and take over as a more popular, bigger part of the populace and everything here. I'm not as hopeful. I admire his belief and his desire, and he wants to evangelize to everybody. He's very, very hungry to do that, to share the message with everybody. But I don't see that the people are receptive enough to it, and I am just, I wish I could be as hopeful as he was for that. But I think where Allah wants me is, growing my family somewhere where it's already established, and reclaiming new roots and developing from there. I think that like Lot, Lot in the Bible sense, Lot in the Quran, him and his daughters, and well, his wife was supposed to go, but we all know how that story went. They were told to leave the place that was corrupt. He couldn't do anything to find good people to change them. And unfortunately, that's the way I'm kind of looking at Occident. It's on this downward slide like Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's time for a lot of us to think about what's really important and maybe bailing on the inevitable. And you know, it also, in all fairness, it gives a place for the people who choose not to follow Allah, who choose not to follow God at all in any way, shape, or, not even trying, that if they're going to be in a place, let them all be in that place together, and let the people who seek Allah be in a holy place, be in a place away from that. I think that would be a much safer for everyone way to share resources, grow, get stronger. Because as long as you're in a place that Allah is not worshipped on a level, at the administrative level, let's say, then you are going to have divide and conquer politics, which is rampant in our society today. And as long as there's divide and conquer politics, you're going to have people just being tore apart in different directions, families tore apart. Many of us think, we may be in the end times. I don't know that for sure. I live each day like it's my last day here, and inshallah, I'll be back again tomorrow to have another one. And, that's all you can do. If you have a sort of fatalist mentality but are thankful for each day that you have, then this is a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful life. It's a gift to be cherished and explored and everything you possibly can. But when you see the face of evil and you can't do anything to change that, then you've got to regroup, get stronger, where there are more people who turn their backs on the face of evil and choose to live more in accordance with what we were taught. And I think that's what I am ultimately going for and seeking. I wish I could do more here. I've got my little podcast. That's about all I can do. But for now, it's all I can hope for. And anyways, hopefully that wasn't really a downer. I'm trying to be as upbeat as possible because I'm actually really, really upbeat about life in general. I have found so far with since I said my Shahada and started to integrate more with the Muslim community, people are very welcoming. It's slow to make friends, but most of the mommies are busy, so and I'm not a mommy, so it's kind of hard to find a connection there, but it'll come. I'm certain of that. And so far my connections are kind of through my husband, and he makes connections. And I went to a class yesterday, which I've got one phone number, so that's a start. And now I've got all you people that talk to me online, and I am grateful for that. I'm actually starting a Patreon account if you want to support me in this endeavor. I don't believe in asking for a lot of money, so I'm going to set it at a whatever you want kind of level, because I don't like asking for things. On that note, to try to work for some of what I get, I have a small eBay store, which will be in the links below, and you can support me that way too, and maybe find something for yourself at a decent price, and hopefully all is well with you and yours, and I'll check you next time. Bye bye.